So Centur-ion has just had new support announced for Legacy of Destruction, and in this video what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the new cards, and then we're going to show you some combos you can do with the new cards, and we're going to discuss why we're playing Superheavy Samurai Centur-ion. So let's start off with the new cards. So we've got 3 of them. One main deck monster, one quick play spell, and one synchro monster. The synchro monster is very good, but we'll start with the main deck monster. So you'll notice that the main deck monster and the quick play spell are not in my starting 40 cards, and that's because I don't think they are that fantastic for this particular build, but they are still really good cards. So we'll start with Centur-ion Gargoyle's Y. This card has 3 effects. It is a level 8 dragon. You're going to use the first, second, and third effect once per turn. So the first effect is you can send a face-up Centur-ion card you control to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hands, and also you cannot special summon it again for the rest of the term. Good effect. It's not a quick effect, so you can't dodge cards like Veiler and Imperm, but considering the deck's main weakness is Primera getting negated, that is probably a benefit to every other deck in the format rather than a weakness of this deck. The second effect is if this card is sent to the graveyard as secret material, you can add it to your hand. A really good effect considering it can just keep special summoning itself from the hand for free. Being able to add it back is really nice, and yeah, it's a fine effect. The third effect is the traditional Centur-ion effect, where during the main phase, if this card is a continuous trap, you can special summon it. Then you can decrease its level by 4, which essentially makes it just another Trudea while it is in the spell and trap zone, which for a pure Centur-ion list is probably something that you wouldn't mind seeing. For the next card is a quick play spell. This is Wake Up Centur-ion. It's a quick play, and you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. The first effect is if you have a face-up monster card in your spell and trap zone, you can declare a level from either 4 or 8, and then special summon a Centur-ion token, who is a Pyro Dark with 0 attack and 0 defense, with that level, but it cannot be used as fusion or link material. This is interesting. As an extender, it really makes sense because you're summoning a non-tuner to go with your Primera. However, if your Primera is stopped and you're stopping yourself from, or you've been stopped from doing the combo, you probably don't have a monster in your spell and trap zone to be able to fulfill the condition to special summon your extender, which I think makes this card a little bit mid in the first effect, but I'm probably going to be wrong, because I often am. Maybe in a pure Centur-ion list this would be a lot better, but this first effect is a little bit middling for me. The second effect, though, is quite interesting. So during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and send a Centur-ion card from your deck to the graveyard. This can get your Emmet in graveyard to be able to bounce cards into the spell and trap zone and special summon itself back, or it can get your Phalanx in graveyard. This card has a graveyard effect where you can banish it from the graveyard and target Centur-ion Synchro in your graveyard and special summon it. Both of these Synchros, the new one and the old one, both trigger if they are special summoned, not just if they are synchro summoned. So say you have a Legacia in your graveyard, you could use the Phalanx to special summon back the Legacia and pop a card in the field and draw a card, which I think makes this quick play spell a lot more interesting if you are going down that sort of route. The most important card from the new support, though, is Centur-ion Arc-Cola. So it is a level 12 Synchro Dragon with 3,000 attack and 3,000 defense. You can only use the first and third effect of this card once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can add a Centur-ion card from your deck to your hand. Fantastic effect on a generic level 12 Synchro. It's the exact same as Primera. You can just add a Centur-ion card from your deck to your hand, and considering the deck's biggest weakness is having Primera, Ashed, Imped, Veilered, etc., having a second card which can search your deck is fantastic if you can get the extension to get there to allow you to continue comboing. The second effect is face-up cards in your spell and trap zones cannot be destroyed by card effects. This is good. It's interesting for the continuous traps themselves because obviously they kind of lose to Cosmic or like any form of back row removal, like a Runic Destruction or whatever, to stop them from special summoning. Which is a fine effect to put on this monster as like an extra effect. Obviously the field spell has its own protection anyway, so not really relevant there, but it is relevant for the continuous spell and trap effects of the monsters. The third effect is during the end phase, you can place a non-synchro Centur-ion monster that is banished during your graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. Exactly the same as Legacia, except Legacia places from hand or graveyard. This places from banish or graveyard, which gives you extra application into Runics banishing all your monsters, or Bestials, or DD Crows, which are, DD Crows are everywhere in this format, but I don't know if they will be when this support comes out. But it certainly is a nice place to be able to get the cards out of, since Trudea and Primera are both Bestial food. So, why Superheavy Centur-ion? Well, the reason is this level 12 synchro. So, because this is a generic synchro, we can get to it from either Bike or Wakaushi. So, we can go from Wakaushi into Big Benkai into the booster to make the Tilting Entertainment, or Entrainment, to special summon back to the Wakaushi, and that is the correct levels to make a level 12 synchro, while being able to put the Wakaushi in the Pendulum Zone, chain blocking the effect of the Arc-Cola. That on its own is probably good enough to consider playing the Superheavy Samurais. That them being extra 1.5 card combos. The deck had plenty of 1.5 card combos, where it had Oath, Stand Up, Trudea, and Primera all being combo on their own with a discard. But what really pushes it for me is that these act as extension for when your Primera gets stopped. So let's say you open up Wakaushi and Primera. You can start with Primera. If your Primera gets stopped, you can continue with your Wakaushi and get to your Arcola and keep playing. Also, since Bike is a one-card Baron, if you open Bike in Primera, you can just make a Baron, protect your Primera, and you don't have to worry about it anyway. People have already been playing Superheavy Samurai Centur-ion, using the Bike in Wakaushi to go into Flame Banshee, the XYZ monster that searches a Pyro, to search for the Trudea. That works and was fine, and I think there has been a few lists that have topped like regionals, maybe like done kind of well at YCSs doing this sort of stuff. But this is considerably better with the level 12 synchro, since not only can you use Wakaushi as an extender, you get your pendulum scales, so even if these get stopped and you just happen to have like a Trudea, you can then just pendulum summon out your Trudea anyway and continue playing, which gives you so much more protection playing into hand traps. Let's talk about the rest of the cards. So, we've talked about these. Obviously not playing Terraforming before anybody asks in the comments, because it turns off our Superheavy Samurais. Bonfire is a card that could be considered, since it does search Trudea, and Trudea is a one-card combo. However, this card is very expensive, and if you're buying Bonfires, just play Fire King, it's better. And also, it conflicts with the Superheavies, so that's why we're not playing it. Big Benkai. I really feel a little bit awkward playing 6 copies of the starter and only 1 Big Benkai, because if you draw it, I'm really upset about that, because these cards don't do anything with Big Benkais in hand. However, it's probably not worth playing 2. It's like the Garnet discussion. When we were playing Brilliant Fusion, were we playing 2 Garnet? No. Another thing to consider is Superheavy Samurai Soul Piercer. We're playing the Soul Gaia booster in this build because it's doesn't use your normal summon, and it's just generally better if you're trying to be more consistent with your plays. But technically, none of the combos I'm going to show you actually uses the Pendulum Summon. So hypothetically, you could search for Soul Piercer and normal summon it, and then do the same play we're going to show you with the Tilting Entertainment, and search more Super Heavy Samurai. So you could play a larger Super Heavy Samurai engine if you wanted to, and not have to worry so much about the Centur-ion cards. I think I've talked a little bit too much about the deck portion, so let's go into some combos. So this first one's going to be what if Calamities is banned. So you'll see that we are still playing Calamities in this list, and by the time that Legacy of Destruction comes out, it could very well be banned. I hope it is. So let's just show you what this deck can do with the new support, even without Calamities. So we'll start with normal summoning a Primera and activating the effect to search for a copy of Stand Up Centur-ion. From here, we'll activate the Stand Up Centur-ion and discard Destroy Lockbird, which could of course be any card, to place Trudea in the Spell and Trap Zone, and then special the Trudea and use the effect on field to put it back in the Spell and Trap Zone and put an Emmet in the Spell and Trap Zone. From here, we could use Emmet to special summon itself, and then synchro with the Primera to go for our new synchro, and use the effect to search for a copy of Centur-ion True Awakening, which is essentially Judgment if you have a monster in your Spell and Trap Zone. From here, we can set the Awakening, go to the end phase, and use the effect of the Synchro to put the Primera back in the Spell and Trap Zone. And then from here, we can use Trudea to summon itself, the Emmet to bounce the Trudea to summon itself to keep a monster in the Spell and Trap Zone to keep our Awakening alive, and then use the Primera to special summon itself alongside the field spell to go into a copy of Legatia to get a pop and a draw, as well as a search of the Primera for next turn. So just off the 1.5 cards of Primera, we have a pop, a draw, and the Judgment from Awakening, while having 2 big bodies on the field, which I think is a fine place to be for a deck that's playing, 18 pieces of non-engine? So you have a lot of hand traps to back that up. Now let's look at what Superheavy Samurai does for the engine. This is going to be with Calamities, since it is what Centur-ion tries to do. So we're going to start with Bike, and we're going to search for a copy of Wakaushi, place the Big Benkai, and then use the Big Benkai to search for a Soul Gaia booster. We're then going to use the Soul Gaia booster to equip the Wakaushi, and then summon the Soul Gaia booster and synchro into a Tilting Entrainment. From here, we can use Tilting Entrainment's effect to special summon back the Wakaushi, and then use the Wakaushi and the Tilting Entrainment to go for the synchro, Chainlink 1 the synchro, Chainlink 2 Wakaushi to search for a copy of Primera. From here, we can normal summon the Primera to get our stand-up Centur-ion, discard this Nibiru, and place a Trudea in the Spell and Trap Zone, then use Trudea to put itself back in the Spell and Trap Zone and place a Emmet from the deck, and then special the Emmet and use it and the Primera to go for a Legatia and get the effect to draw a card. Then in the end phase, we can get the Primera and the Emmet off of both of our synchros. In our opponent's turn, we can use Trudea to summon, Emmet to summon, and then Primera to summon, and then use Primera and the field spell in sequence to go for a copy of Crimson Dragon. I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times. We'll search for the Trudea as follow-up, and then we can use the Crimson Dragon, targeting one of our synchros to go into Calamities. So this was just off of Wakaushi and a discard. This is a little bit better than what the Calamities combos look like at the minute, because we have this extra synchro monster in the Arcola. Something I've noticed with these decks is, like, you make the King Calamities, and then you just don't have enough to OZK your opponent on the follow-up if they have, like, any form of hand trap at all. So having, what is this? This is 10,500 on board in your opponent's turn is going to ensure that you kill them if your Calamities resolves. Next, I'm going to show you Wakaushi, Primera, and the Nibiru. I can't remember which version of the combo this is. Okay, so this is going to be what happens if your Primera gets ashed. So we're going to normal summon our Primera, it gets ashed, imped, etc. And then we're going to use the Wakaushi as an extender. So we're going to use Wakaushi to place the Big Benkai to add a copy of Soul Gaia booster, and then we're going to summon the Soul Gaia booster by equipping it to the Wakaushi, and then go for the Tilting Entrainment to special summon back the Wakaushi to go into our copy of the new Synchro, which is of course going to allow us to search for our field spell, which the Primera couldn't search because it was negated. From here, we can use the field spell for the Nib to place Trudea. Trudea Dance, put itself on the field, then put it back in the Spell and Trap Zone, place the Emmet, summon the Emmet, and then go for our copy of Legatia, which is of course going to allow us to draw a card and pop one if we're going second, I guess. We can then use both the Synchro effects to place the Primera and the Emmet in our Spell and Trap Zone, and then we can go Emmet and Primera, and use the field spell to go for our Crimson Dragon, which is of course going to allow us to go for another copy of the Calamities, because we're assuming it's not banned after I've returned the wrong monster. So that showed that even after Primera gets negated, if you happen to have your Super Heavy Samurai engine, you can extend through that, which the deck really does struggle to do at the moment. And this last combo was going to be, well, what about if I open Bike and Primera? Did I start with the Primera? Well, you can actually just protect your Primera. So we'll go with the Bike and search for the Wakaushi, use the Wakaushi to place the Big Benkai and summon itself and search for the Soul Gaia booster, as we've done so many times before. And then we can place the Soul Gaia booster, summon it, and go for our copy of Stardust. From here, we can use the Stardust 1, Wakaushi 2, summon back the Bike, and go for a Baron de Fleur. From here, we now have protection, so we can normal summon our Primera and search for the field spell. We can then use the field spell, and we can place our copy of Trudea, do the Trudea dance, and do the exact same combo we've been doing previously with the Emmet and the Primera as the material for the new Synchro. From here, we can grab the True Awakening, since we have this Trudea in the Spell and Trap Zone. We can set the True Awakening, and then we can use the effect to get this Primera back. In our opponent's turn, we can use the Trudea, and then use the Emmet to put it back. And then we can special summon the Primera to make our Crimson Dragon to go for our Calamity play. We do it in this order so we can ensure that there is always a monster in the Spell and Trap Zone for our Awakening in case our opponent has two ways of interacting with our Crimson Dragon, or if we had to use a Baron de Fleur to stop the negation on our Primera. So this protects the Crimson Dragon into Calamity line a lot more than previously, because we have the Baron de Fleur, which we get up before a Nibiru could even possibly hit us, and we also have the Counter Trap, which can stop our opponent in their turn as well. So this is two negates on top of the Calamities, and even if Calamities gets banned, a line like this would still be possible. Instead of just going for the Calamities, you just summon either the what's I have in here? The Cosmic Quasar or the Red Supernova Dragon, which is still a game-winning move if these cards are able to resolve, especially when they're backed up with the Counter Trap and a Baron. So that is what I've been thinking about with the new Centur-ion support since it got announced about 2 hours ago, maybe an hour and a half. And yeah, let me know what you think about what Centur-ion could look like after Legacy of Darkness. Legacy of Destruction, not Legacy of Darkness. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider subscribing. We have plenty of content like this on this channel. There'll be plenty more coming in the future. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Have a good one.